Welcome to the kill-death ratio, where I count all my kills and all my deaths. Today, I'm playing God of War Ragnarok. Released in 2022 by Santa Monica Studio, we pick up with Kratos and Atreus a few years after the events of God of War 2018. They're enduring Fimbulwinter until a visit from Thor and Odin sends them away from their home on a journey to prevent Ragnarok. This game is an absolute masterpiece in storytelling, character development, voice acting, combat, and world building. Taking the reins from Cory Barlog is first-time director Eric Williams, who had some very large shoes to fill in order to top the 2018 release, and I think he succeeded in every possible way. I could gush about this game non-stop, so let me end this intro here and get to the kills. I choose balanced difficulty as Kratos sighs in disappointment for not giving him a challenge. Atreus walks in and drops a deer, asking if Daddy-O is hungry. Atreus rubs his marble a bit before they head home by way of dog sled, but there's a witch in these woods and she's still a tad bit angry about her son's murder and seeks vengeance against Kratos. We're able to fend Freya off without hurting her and get behind the protection stave, keeping our home safe where Atreus pets his ailing wolf Fenrir in a tear-jerking scene.
You can let go now. You have to let go.
Atreus speaks the Jotnar tongue as Fenrir's soul leaves his body. Kratos suggests it's time to train, which Atreus doesn't take kindly to as he just wants to bury his wolf. So Kratos goes inside where Mimir is chillin' reading a book. Kratos goes right to sleep and wakes up in a dream with Deborah Ann Woll, ya lucky bastard! Known for her roles in True Blood and Daredevil, this is her first foray into video games as Faye, who we see in dreams throughout the game. She humbles Sir Grumbles before disappearing and sneaking up behind him, telling him time is running out and rudely pushes him out of his own dream. Mimir advises us Atreus never came home from burying Fenrir, so we set out to find him and along the way come across some raiders who get the honor of being the first kills added to the count, which is the highest honor any raider has earned since 1984. Wondering how some lowly raiders are so close to home, we find a mauled bear near a broken protection stave and follow the bloody trail to some more enemies that allow Kratos to leave a bloody trail of his own while we quickly bump the kill total up to 24. Kratos shouts for Atreus and instead plays the role of Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant. This begins our first boss fight of the game, but it's not a kill we can add, because when you think the bear is dead, it turns out to be our son, who must be pretty stoked about this power, right?
Can I turn into an animal?
Fenrir's death got Atreus feeling emotional and unable to control his powers, so we head back home, killing 7 more raiders, resetting the protection stave, and finally getting some peace and quiet. God damn it, what now?
Can I come in? I have meat.
Oh snap, by all means come inside. The two gods talked about constantly in the previous game make an early appearance in a very Tarantino-esque scene that has these powerful gods behaving in a friendly manner on the surface, but in a snap can erupt in extreme violence. Thor, played by Ryan Hurst, and Odin, played by Richard Schiff, show up at our house unannounced, saying Kratos has a debt to pay for Baldur's death. Odin's request is peace. Atreus must stop looking for Tyr, and as long as Kratos doesn't interfere with him, he won't interfere with Kratos, but his time in Greece has left him understandably mistrustful of a god's word as he tells Odin,
No.
That gives Thor the green light to get violent, initiating an epic fight between the god all of us wanted to battle as soon as they announced that these games take place in Norse mythology. Thor revels in this shit and is excited to fight me in a battle that has us flying around wrecking things until I die for the first time.
I say when we're done.
Psych! Thor resuscitates me to continue the battle some more. Eventually, the Leviathan axe and Mjolnir meet head to head, while Kratos gives Thor some fatherly advice that's not taken kindly.
Fuck you, say!
Over 11 minutes later, the fight concludes with Thor breaking our shield and Kratos knocking Thor's tooth out, so he flies away to seek out the Tooth Fairy to cash it in. Brock and Sindri arrive and escort us back home to check on Atreus, who got stuck with Odin, who invited him to Asgard. Kratos asks why his son is searching for Tyr. Instead of telling, he wants to show us why, so we gather our things to assist in killing more raiders and some Hellwalkers. Mid-climb, we're impaled by a new enemy, the Stalker, a centaur-like creature that begins another boss fight. One of the major complaints from the previous game was lack of enemy variety, so that was a priority for the developers in this game, who added a lot more enemy types. I take the Huntress out in violent fashion, then advance onwards and enter the shrine itself, where Atreus explains that the secret stories are located inside the shrines, with this one in particular telling us the story of the wolf giant's skull and Hati, and the eventuality of Ragnarok, with Tyr leading the fight against Asgard. Tyr is believed to be killed by Odin, but the shrines say otherwise, as Atreus admits he and Sindri have been visiting them to figure out what they all say. Signs point us to the dwarven realm Svartalfheim, where we begin our search. We take out some more raiders and meet up with Sindri, who offers to let us stay with them now that our house is all busted up from Thor's rude ass. We pop out into a clearing on the world tree and enter the dwarves' home. Sindri is being a great host, but Kratos isn't the best guest.
Anybody need a snack? Kratos?
Snack?
I do not need a snack.
I don't know, man. I think you could use a Snickers. Kratos asks his preferred dwarf to fix his shield as it's a gift from Faye, but in the meantime he crafts us a new one until it's done. This game improves upon the combat from the previous entry in many ways, but a major update is how you use your shield. Depending on your playstyle, you can choose one better for parrying or one better at blocking. I went the boring route and chose the blocking shield, then set out to Svartalfheim in search of Tyr. We seek Durlin, cousin of these two dwarves who also worked with Faye during the rebellion against Asgard, and is expected to point us to the right mine that contains Tyr's prison. Before we leave, we use Mimir's eyes to unlock travel between the realms again. We arrive in Svartalfheim, which is a stark contrast to Midgard right now. Fimbulwinter hits all realms in different ways, so no snow here, just new enemies for us to kill. I murder 10 of the wretches before finding a boat and using that to navigate around the waters, solving puzzles that our companions have zero patience with.
If you freeze the geyser, the pressure will turn the wheel.
There's far more positives with this game, but man, that got annoying listening to them bitch about my stupidity. I make several pit stops, killing more wretches and adding a lot more of these grims to the count, along with an Ormer which was just minding its own business until I decided to blindside it and move onwards towards the dwarven city of Nidavellir. Watching the behind the scenes videos, it's clear how excited the developers were for players to see this realm, and it's easy to see why. It's a gorgeous location with so many details, and it's awesome to see where Brock and Sindri come from.
Oh, if these cobblestones could talk. Then they'd have mouths. Filthy, disgusting mouths.
The dwarves don't look too happy to see us though, fleeing into their homes and sounding the alarm to warn the city that my pasty ass has arrived. The only dwarf out in the open is Sindri, who upgrades Atreus' bow so we can blow up certain objects using sonic arrows. This unleashes more beasts that I show some Grecian hospitality before going to the local tavern and meeting composer Bear McCreary in dwarven form. This game is jam-packed with Easter eggs like this, with some of my favorites being the poems left around the realms that detail popular PlayStation games like Horizon, The Last of Us, and Bloodborne. He directs us towards Durlin and tells us to clean up the rigs Mimir installed as a younger god that are polluting the hell out of everything nearby. Ragnarok has a lot more side content than the previous game. You can easily spend 40 plus hours doing everything, but for this video I stuck mostly to story content and kept the side stuff for endgame, except for these rigs that bumped my kill total up a decent amount, while introducing us to a couple new enemies including the wretch-shitting Bergsra and some powerful Draugr known as the Hateful that also grant me my first death of the game. Shortly after showing them how hateful I can be, I locate Durlin, who is quick to usher us out in fear of Odin, but disguises the map by calling it a fine in case his ravens are listening. I add 12 grims to the tally, then take a lift up a nearby mountain where another mini-boss awaits called a Dreki. That's dispatched with Atreus' help. Near our way forward are some more wretches I quickly kill along with their nests before hopping on the trolley that gets invaded by grims looking for a fight. In this QTE sequence I kill 10 of them until we free fall into this troll that I turn headless to cap the sequence off, but we're not finished fighting quite yet because a few more enemies lurk in this quarry, increasing our count by 10 more. I increase our count to over 200, then jump into the world's most boring log flume that carries us to some more killing opportunities, where we meet the Einherjar, warriors of Valhalla that fight and die for Odin. After they've been sent back to where they came from, we bring down the door and free Tyr from his bindings. He's mistrustful, thinking it's a trick of Odin's, and once he sees Mimir's severed head, the Norse god of war is like, hell nah, and scampers off while Atreus pursues him, leaving me to fight and kill more of the Einherjar by myself. We catch up, and Kratos is sick of his weak shit and pulls him up for a stern talk. He claims he ran because he can't always decipher what's real and what's not. On our way back to the World Tree, Atreus attempts to recruit Tyr to our cause, but years of imprisonment have changed him, so he refuses to fight, leaving the rest of the enemies in our way to us. Atreus wants to discuss the next plan of action, but Kratos puts it off until morning. He confides in Mimir that he doesn't approve of his son's approach while Atreus listens in outside the window.
Pity Freya still wants to kill you. That's an ally we could use.
Ooh, good idea. In this game, we get to play as Atreus, who plays a lot differently than Kratos. I absolutely loved playing as him. Tying together combos with his arrows, then wailing on enemies with the bow was super fun, and I looked forward to his sections. Sindri accompanies me, trying to convince us not to go see Freya, instead suggesting we go see the World Serpent. We head back to snowy Midgard, where Atreus has a momentary lapse in judgment and tries to pull a Kratos. After that, I get my first taste of murder as a teenager, then go chat with Jormungandr, who only tells us to find ironwood and then pieces out to go make snow snakes. Well, time for our original plan to see Freya then. Sindri is too scared to go.
Just be sure to scream if she starts killing you!
So we leave him behind and add a lot more Draugr and nightmares to the count. We find Freya and tuck the mistletoe arrowhead that killed her son into our armor, but she spots it instantly, and despite Atreus' pleading, she still refuses to help and yeets his ass away, warning him that his father won't receive the same mercy. We rejoin Sindri Sindri, and a few kills later, he admits Brock died in a forge accident, and he brought him back to life by going back to Alfheim and retrieving 3 of his 4 soul parts, explaining the reason for his blue skin. We go back home where Kratos questions our whereabouts.
Peeing?
Who are you, Austin Powers? Over dinner, we discuss going to Alfheim to revisit Groa's shrine, seeking information. Before we leave, the Tender of the World Tree shows up to provide an Yggdrasil seed that unlocks more realms to travel to. Ratatoskr is played by Sungwon Cho, also known as ProZD here on YouTube. And while he doesn't play a major part in the main story, he's an adorable and fun character I'm really happy they included.
Stop with the stupid chime! Oh dear. I'm sorry.
I take over as Kratos again, killing a few more wretches before exploring more of Alfheim, which last we saw was ravaged by war. It still is, except this time Light Elves are the main bad guys that get us over 300 kills. After we killed the Dark Elf leader in the previous game, the tides here have turned as the elves fight each other for control of the Light of Alfheim. I take out mostly Light Elves with a couple other enemies sprinkled here and there, while tacking on another death from one of the elves. Eventually, we find ourselves back by the light that has Kratos jonesing for a trip back to Dreamland, but Atreus isn't about to let him dilly-dally while he piles up elf corpses again. We access Groa's shrine that tells of the giant sanctuary Ironwood, and the Jotnar champion that Atreus believes to be himself. Humble much? Odin forced Groa to tell him her vision of Ragnarok and killed her in response, but she hid some key details.
She lied.
Calm down, buddy. It's good news. Tyr's got a bug up his butt and hauls ass out of here, continuing to be the worst God of War the world has ever seen, and leaves all the nightmares, wretches, and elves to us. Then gets jumped by a couple more of them, one of them being the Light Elf Queen Alva, who gives me my 3rd death of the game. These fucking elves, man. Next go around, I grant her the sweet release of death, while Tyr mourns the one he took out. He guiltily drags her body for some reason and turns out she's still alive. She cuts her leg off and dives off the light bridge, which in turn makes Atreus lose his balance and fall into the Lake of Souls. Kratos activates those dad reflexes and dives in after him. Then Tyr pulls them up using the chains from the blades. Atreus apologizes for trying to convince him to fight for them, but Tyr acknowledges his uselessness.
I should never have come.
Yeah, that's a hard agree there, Tyr. On our way out, we get caught in the middle of a Dark Elf assault that shatters the bridge.
I'm so sick of fighting elves.
Bro, who are you telling? I add 18 total elves to the count before finding the Mystic Gateway, where we head back home and Tyr cooks food for us while feeding Atreus' visions of grandeur by calling him champion. Kratos tells him to knock that shit off because it's making him delusional, so Atreus, calling himself Loki now, goes to bed and wakes up inside a shrine to relive his most cringe moments.
But we're gods. We can do whatever we want.
We appear in Ironwood and follow some scruffy canines to a clearing where we meet fellow giant Angrboda.
I've been waiting my whole life for this moment. You look weirder than I imagined.
Okay, this is off to a great start. She knows who I am, using my giant name, and feeding me bits of information while adding several more kills to the count. The giants hid Ironwood and fed into the rumors it doesn't exist, so Odin won't go looking for it. Giants lean heavily into fate, so Angrboda has been waiting here for Loki because the shrines say her purpose is to tell him his destiny. He reviews the shrines here, foretelling the death of Kratos while Loki serves Odin, which upsets him so much he animorphs into a wolf and tries to wipe it away, but is not a dry erase, so Angrboda calms him down and comforts him.
Oh, don't worry about it. It happens to everyone.
Liar!
She's convinced none of it can be changed and that Loki would be better off just accepting his fate, and then has the gall to ask us to help with chores, but he thinks she's pretty cute and tags along. We meet this adorable yak named Yala, who we ride around for a while collecting fruit. Eventually, we encounter some more enemies that are unfortunate enough to meet a Loki who is finally able to control his wolf powers. With our total kill count over 400, we come up on the Valley of the Fallen that we oversaw when we were spreading Faye's ashes at the end of the last game. Angrboda tells us the giants left those corpses behind to confuse Odin, who would think they're all dead, when they actually went into hiding into this rock? She pulls out a bag of marbles that Loki recognizes, which surprises Angrboda.
Wait, you've seen these before?
Inside your mother's.
Turns out, these marbles contain the souls of giants, and Angrboda thinks Loki is the one to bear their burden, and gets angry now that her part in his story is finished. But Loki wants to hang with her a little longer. She needs more paint, and since there's not a Michael's nearby, we go spelunking in search of supplies, adding a lot more enemies to the count. We get back to the surface to live out a Black Mirror episode, when Angrboda's Meemaw, Gryla, snatches a wolf so she can take it home to steal its soul and experience its memories. Fresh off Fenrir's death, Loki asks to follow so we can free the wolf. A few more kills later, we arrive at Gryla's big-ass past doorsteps and sneak our way in, where we find a soulless danger noodle that Loki revives by transferring a giant soul from a marble into the snake. After that traumatic experience, he decides he doesn't want the marbles anymore and hands them to Angrboda for safekeeping. We exit the basement into the main living area in a level that does a fantastic job of making me feel tiny. Gryla comes in carrying the wolf, prompting Angrboda to get her granny's attention so I can go free it, and immediately after get grabbed by Gryla and tossed across the room. She's going to need her life alert when she slams her hip into the ground, diving after me. She misses as I run under the table and into the walls, where I pop back out and swing my way over to her soul cauldron to break. But Mima's got the meanest backhand in the 9 realms, sending me to the ground and beginning the boss fight. She succeeds in adding my 4th death of the game, but when I reload I bring her down and destroy her cauldron so she can't steal any more souls. She screams at us to get out and berates Angrboda while we leave.
I see you again! You wish you died with your parents!
God damn, your grandmammy is a savage. In an attempt to cheer her up, Loki challenges Angrboda to a race back to her home as some truly kick-ass music kicks in. Like the last game, Bear McCreary composed the score, and yet again, Bear and his team absolutely killed it in every aspect, making an adaptive soundtrack that reacts to what is happening on screen. Once we're back, Angrboda gives us our mom's empty marble. She's feeling a little melancholy now that her part in Loki's story is over, but he wants to believe that their fates are not predetermined no matter how accurate the shrines may be. He tells her he has to go home, unwilling to let his father die. She has us hold the marble, close our eyes, and repeat home, but it sends us back to our broken-ass house in Midgard, surrounded by Hellwalkers. I add them to the count and approach the Mystic Gateway, where Kratos was apparently just waiting for me. He guilt-trips Atreus like only a parent can, but the conversation gets cut short by more Hellwalkers that exist only as punching bags for the Blades of Chaos. And then a Valkyrie jumps us at the worst possible time when my health was low and knocks me out in one hit. After a couple minutes, we end the fight and realize it's actually Freya in disguise, which lowers Kratos' guard enough for Freya to get him in a killing position. Atreus turns grisly and comes after her, but Kratos wrestles him down and is able to calm him. His compassion for Freya confuses and angers her, but she finally realizes that their interests are aligned and calls for a truce. Kratos sends Atreus home with Sindri, while Brock tags along on our trip to Vanaheim. Freya is sick of being trapped in Midgard, so we venture out to her home realm in search of the source that binds her here. She's able to craft a temporary protection spell to grant her time enough to get this done, and enlist Kratos' help since he kinda killed her son and owes her a favor, whereas Brock is simply joining us to go find his drinking buddy. We enter Vanaheim, a dense, lush jungle environment filled with massive trees and asshole plants. There's only a few enemies to start with here, killing some dog-looking things like Golans and some ferocious wolvers. Brock gets caught in a trap, and inside are some strangers lying in wait, with the main one being Freya's brother Freyr. Imagine naming your kids Kyle and Kyla. That shit's confusing. Freya flies in as her hawk form, telling Freyr to quit acting like a tough guy and let us through. Brock finds his friend, and I drop Mimir off with Freyr, while I follow Freya out in search of our goal, with our first obstacle being a large ancient that bests me for my 6th death, before savagely ripping its heart out, and exceed 500 by killing the broods and Golans nearby. Freya and Kratos bond over shared experiences.
Think you can even begin to understand the pain of losing a child?
Yes.
Never mind all that, look at how cute this little tortoise is. Moving onwards, I kill plenty more of the Einherjar while encountering a Grithungur, these didgeridoo setting motherfuckers, and the kingpin of the Einherjar, Fisk, who gives me another death before being toppled and added to the kill count. Eventually, we find the source of the magic, revealing the roots of Yggdrasil being guarded by the dragon Nidhogg. I fight it for about 3 minutes until Freya is able to sever the link to Vanaheim, leaving her hawk form and joining the fight against Nidhogg to assist in a cool fucking kill sequence that I'm still adding to the count despite Freya getting the final hit in because I did all the legwork and held the beast in place, okay? Freya rips the roots apart, finally liberating herself from Odin's spell and now free to traverse the realms as she pleases. Kratos asks how she's feeling, and after a dramatic speech, they lock eyes, shake hands, and Kratos admits he should not have gotten involved with her in Baldur that day. We run into yet another new enemy called a Wisp, then add some more Einherjar before witnessing Hati chasing the moon across the sky. We arrive back at Freyr's camp to reunite brother and sister in a fantastic scene where Danielle Basutti really shines. Shit, the entire cast puts in amazing performances. This game has some of the best acting across the board in any game I've ever played, from Christopher Judge and Sonny Soljic, to the dwarves Robert Craighead and Adam Harrington, to Alistair Duncan and Leia DeLeon Hayes and beyond. Freyr wants Freya to stay, but she's out for blood and wants to bring Odin to justice. We head back to the house and question Atreus on where he went, thinking maybe he went to see Odin. Atreus gets all riled up and is like, I was just thinking about it, okay?
There is no good reason to go to Odin.
He'll only cloud your mind.
Tyr is immediately proven right when Atreus senses a forest fire and tears ass out of there. Kratos shouts his given name before he ends up back in Midgard again. We're welcomed by several more enemies, with a wight showing up that bursts into wisps when killed, and allows me to increase the count Happy Gilmore style. Eventually we find Freya's turtle house Charlie and take shelter inside when we hear a knocking at the window. Odin's raven Hugin comes in and ushers us to Asgard, and can't even do me a solid by taking me right to Odin's house, instead forcing me to fight and increase my numbers some more. Eventually I meet fellow Midgardian Skilder, who is part of a community saved by Odin from the endless snow and relocated here. Loki tells him he's Odin's apprentice and needs to get over the wall, meaning the climate. Skilder follows because it's pretty fucking boring here and he needs something to do.
Well, Loki, you seem like a good guy. I really hope I am not about to watch you die.
I get the count over 600 while climbing the wall, and at the top get some help from this purple-eyed fellow.
What part of the enormous wall made you think, oh, visitors must be welcome?
Oh, never mind, he's a dick! Loki tells him he was sent for by Odin, and after some back and forth, he pulls him up. We discover this god is Heimdall, god of foresight and carrier of Galahorn that signals the beginning of Ragnarok. He escorts us to the Great Lodge, but Heimdall is a smug douchebag and forces us to fight some Einherjar, before fighting us himself. I use the word fight in the loosest possible terms here, because he straight up makes a fool of Loki. Thor and Odin arrive, getting Heimdall's brown-nosing ass off my back.
He means to betray you.
Is that true, Loki? You a little trickster?
Odin dismisses Thor and tells Heimdall to fuck off. Odin shows us around Asgard, witnessing Valkyrie and Einherjar training, then brings me to my room that used to be Modi's, and awkwardly introducing me to his mother and Thor's wife Sif. We make a quick pit stop in Svartalfheim, where Odin demands that they get to work on some machines for him, then head back home where we continue to meet everyone in the goddamn family, I guess. After meeting Thor's daughter, we enter Odin's office, where we're given a new sword named Ingrid that has a mind of its own. He takes us down into his basement, and under normal circumstances, I'd advise against that, but here, he shows us a mysterious rift that fascinates the Allfather so much that it's driving him to search for answers on what it is. Loki reaches for it, but Odin says no touchy, then hands him a broken mask piece and asks if he can translate it. One of Loki's gifts is being hyper-perceptive to language, so he's able to decipher it, hyping Odin up and sending us with Thor to find the next mask piece. We simply walk into Muspelheim, the Mordor of realms, and traverse through the rocky waste with Thor, killing loads of enemies along the way. During our travels, I spot another shrine, this time for the giant Surtur, but with Thor at our side, we can't exactly go check it out yet. He convinces Thor to go fight in some trials, saying it was fun as Helheim when he and his father did it back in 2018. With him gone, we arrive at the shrine and get a nice surprise when Angrboda pops out. She's searching for more marbles and judging Loki something fierce when he admits he's working with Odin. Inside the shrine, we find an empty marble and watch the giant Surtur and Sinmara make out, but instead of making babies, they make a gianter giant called Ragnarok. That concludes that episode of Shrines of Our Giants, so we part ways and I head back to meet Thor before he figures out I'm gone. He talks shit while I fight a mob of enemies, and once they've been cleared out, we locate the next mask piece. Thor calls the Ravens and we begin heading back to Odin when Thor compliments us.
You're an okay kid, you're still a giant, and I'll revel in killing you too.
Thanks, I guess? Odin asks how everything went and tells Loki to keep the mask so he can translate the new piece. I take it up to my room and set my knife down in a fantastic transition over to Kratos. We approach Freya, requesting we go find the Norns, otherwise known as the Fates. You sure about that, man? The last time it didn't go so well. For them, anyway. We go to Midgard and provide the Norns scent to our wolves so we can catch their trail. On our way, we discuss my death prophecy when Kratos utters one of the most badass lines ever.
Death can have me when it earns me.
We venture through snowy Midgard and some of the best looking snow environments I've seen in a video game. I love levels that take place in these climates. Assault on the Control Room? Classic. Canehurst Castle? Fire. Cool Mountain? Dope as fuck. We kill a bunch more enemies on our search for the Norns, and Freya kicks some serious ass. We get my kill total over 700 with this mini-boss, then find a door that fogs the place up and throws a lot more kills our way while exposing us to the thoughts and memories that haunt Freya, Mimir, and Kratos. After those trials are done, we locate a Kelpie that takes us to the Norns, who are irritating as hell.
He resists the urge to grunt. Oh, he fails.
They tell us that there isn't some grand design and that we're just so predictable it seems like they can predict the future. We're told Heimdall intends to kill Atreus and that Kratos will kill Heimdall and start Ragnarok. We emerge onto the surface, finding a noose on a nearby tree that Odin used for his choking kink and Freya pockets for safekeeping. We go back to the dwarves who have an idea for a weapon that can take out Heimdall, utilizing the ring Draupnir that can multiply itself.
They stole Draupnir.
Sindri retrieves it from the basement and sends us to Svartalfheim to craft the weapon. Brock and Sindri argue who should accompany me, but Kratos is feeling blue dabba-dee yabba die and brings Brock with him. Teaming up with Freya again, we arrive in some dwarven mines, killing loads more creatures until we arrive on the surface to continue that tradition. On our way up to the forge, Brock lets us in on some dwarven wisdom.
Nature of a thing's more important than the form of a thing.
I quickly add a couple grims, then find the forge. We go underwater where a mermaid greets us. Well, greets me and ignores Brock, then creates a spear out of Dropnir and hands it back. Brock asks if she can bless it, but again, she ignores him.
Mermaids don't speak to our corporeal bodies. They speak to a part of our soul. A part specifically you might be missing.
This clues Brock in that he died and didn't just get blue skin because of the metals he works with. He's understandably upset until Kratos asks him to bless the spear. What the fuck, Brock? Gross! On the surface, enemies lie ahead so I can test the new spear out. Dropnir can replicate itself, allowing me to impale things multiple times and blow them up at my command. I earn another death during a mob fight while inching ever closer to the final total of the previous game when Odin shows up using Durlin as a shield between him and Kratos. He continues to tell us he wants peace, saying Atreus is the key to that, but Kratos just wants his son back.
Return my son, or you may meet the god I once was.
That threat has every hair on Odin's body standing on end, so he dips out and leaves me to kill more of Valhalla's warriors before entering the trolley and telling Freya we're prepared to kill Heimdall if necessary.
That may be my form. It is not my nature. Do you understand?
No. When we get home, Kratos goes right to bed and has another dream of Faye holding baby Atreus and telling him to protect their son when he apparates out of his hands. He wakes up to punch the shit out of this wall as we transition to Atreus doing the same. We enter Odin's basement and overhear Odin demeaning Thor some more while telling us how much of a slut he is for knowledge, sending us with Thrud and Heimdall to Helheim to find the next mask piece. We teleport to Helheim and thank fucking God Heimdall leaves on his own mission while Thrud shows me what a badass she is. The mask points us in the direction of this big dog, and using his giant senses, Loki thinks the best idea is to free the wolf, and once it runs off, the mask stops reacting. We notice some ominous looking claw marks when Heimdall appears uninvited.
You know that thing tears holes between realms, right?
He belittles the two of us in his typical smug way, then brings us back to the Grand Lodge, where we need to explain to the Allfather what happened. Asgard is safe from Garm, but the other realms are in danger. Loki tells Odin he wants to go home, forcing him to hand the mask and Ingrid back over to him. Odin says Hugin will wait at our house in Midgard if he wants to come back here, then sends me home, where I battle some Hellwalkers and exceed the total kill count from the previous game. I step through the Mystic Gateway and enter a fight, killing even more before assisting Freya with a spell to close the rifts, but a Hellwalker attacks and pins me down. Kratos murders it and pulls his son up to his feet while we transition to control Kratos seamlessly and kill the remaining walkers. Tyr comes out carrying a shield, asking if the fighting is over. Then Atreus hugs his dad in a tender moment between these two, then admits to freeing Garm, much to the dismay of the others.
Garm! Great bleeding fuck, lad, you freed Garm!
Kratos tells them to shut the fuck up while they go to hell to fix his mistake. We quickly get our total count over 900 in hell, and add an additional death from a revenant. Atreus wants to try and calm Garm down peacefully, but the wolf ain't having it and continues rampaging. Kratos eventually tells Atreus we're going to do it his way, the old-fashioned way, and take it head on. Garm kills me once, exceeding my total death count from the previous game, but the next go-around we succeed in ending its reign of chaos and choke it with its own chain. A few minutes later, Kratos tells Atreus about his encounter with the Norns when suddenly he's crushed by a chain and a motherfucking Garm is back. We go on the run, dodging most of the enemies in our way except for a handful, then begin a round 2 with the big bad wolf. Unsure of what to do, Kratos hands the reins over to Atreus, who gets on top of the wolf and stabs him with his knife. It runs off, and a while later we find him hiding away looking much friendlier. Turns out, Fenrir's soul from the beginning of the game wound up inside the knife, transferring his soul into the wolf's body and making the bad boy into the biggest good boy around. Oh my god, he's so cute. Before traversing the Mystic Gateway, Kratos admits he's been difficult and apologizes.
Don't be sorry, father. Be better.
Oh, you rascal. Back home, Atreus asks the crew if they know the mask. Tyr is the only one who does, explaining it's a source of infinite knowledge. Freya doesn't care, asking if we're game to kill Heimdall, but Kratos is sick of killing gods and says, nah fam. Freya returns to Vanaheim to join her brother instead, where we wind up anyway. You remember that boy we almost killed in the last game? Well, here he is in human form. He gives Atreus some shit about the scar he left him, then enlists our help as the Einherjar have increased their presence here and Skull and Hati are now missing, making it difficult for them to track time. We tally up some more kills and then find find the wolves sleeping, with the only way to wake them up is by finding the moon and putting it back, just like in the prophecy.
As if that's a perfectly normal thing to say.
We increase the count again and find the moon just chilling there, and after picking it up, Atreus realizes that's the reason Heimdall went to Helheim in the first place, meaning he's now here in Vanaheim. We head back to the sleeping wolves, freeing the moon and waking them up, causing an eclipse. Kratos reminds Atreus that we do what's necessary, not what's written, and has Atreus shoot an arrow so Skull can go chasing the stick. Hati gifts us an item that lets us change the time of day at designated points. We continue along, swapping out Atreus with Freya, dying one time to a Dreki, but murdering a bunch more enemies, inching ever closer to 1,000 kills for the first time on this channel. Freya wants her own taste of Disneyland by setting off some fireworks, which leads Heimdall right to us. Kratos has Freya go while we take the smug asshole on ourselves.
Now, what you got?
The first phase has us whittling away at his mount's health until we wrestle it down and bump the kill total into 4 digits. Yeah, boy! Heimdall can be tricky as he dodges every attack with ease, until you toss a spear at him and blow it up. He gets increasingly frustrated the more it happens, until we eventually pin him against the wall while he cries for us to stop. Kratos keeping him alive angers him further, claiming he'll gut Atreus, so we just blow his arm off, no big deal. But that doesn't stop him, because he refuses to accept defeat and grows a magic arm in its place. This starts the final phase of the fight that has us see old Kratos for a moment while Heimdall's life is taken from him and we claim Galahorn. We eliminate more foes, pick up an injured Freyr, bitch slapping our attackers to the side for some quick kills, then Peter Pan our asses out of here until some dragons attack and Homeboy sacrifices himself for us. We follow Freya and Freyr back to Sindri's, where we find Freyr high as a fucking kite.
Let the herbs work.
Oh, they work? Oh, they work very well.
I want what he's having. Atreus offers to go back to Odin so we can complete the mask and get some answers. Kratos trusts him to get it done, and right before we leave, Sindri modifies our gateway key so we can make a sudden escape if necessary. We enter Midgard where Angerboda and Fenrir are. Atreus asks her to look after his big pup while she gives him Loki's marble. We meet up with the Raven Hugin to get back to Asgard. We enter Odin's office and immediately get told Heimdall is dead.
Everyone hated him.
He claims not to know about any of it and tells Odin he mistranslated the mask. We need to go to Niflheim, but need to find Thor first. Thrud knows exactly where he is, leading us to a pub where he's shithouse drunk. A brawl erupts and racks the kills up for me. Once it's over, Thor gets a talking to from Thrud that sobers him up real fast.
I just thought this was behind us.
With Thor's help, we continue to pile up the bodies and find the final mask piece that prompts Odin's arrival. However, Sif and some Valkyries follow to arrest Atreus for the murder of Heimdall, but Odin brushes her aside since Kratos is the one who killed him. Sif tells Thor to get his shit together because Odin couldn't care less about them and their family. The truth fills Thor with rage, but instead of directing it towards the Allfather, he aims it at Atreus. He uses Sindri's upgrade to escape certain death with the mask in hand and returns back to the house. Now that they have the mask, they have leverage, but need to find a way to Asgard. Tyr says he'll pick up his spear one last time and lead them there, but Brock calls him on his bullshit while Tyr claims it's all about destiny. The crew starts chattering about rushing into Asgard. However, Brock is still hung up on how Tyr kept that one detail from us, smacking the mask out of his hand.
All the pieces ain't welded together true.
Tyr stabs Brock in the chest, revealing himself to be Odin this whole time. This twist was done so well, yet hidden in plain sight. When talking about the real Tyr, there's an accent above the Y, but when Odin's Tyr talks, there isn't. He calls Freya Frigg, along with other details sprinkled throughout the game. Odin takes Atreus hostage, demanding the mask, but Atreus is hungry like the wolf and bites him. As Odin tries to escape, Kratos uses Draupnir to knock the mask out of his hands just in time. Freya is unable to heal Brock's wound in a devastating scene that completely wrecks Sindri.
And now what have I got? Not even my family.
We formulate a plan to unite the realms against Asgard. Hildisvíni and Mimir will go to Helheim, Freyr to Alfheim, Freya to Vanaheim, Atreus and Kratos to Muspelheim in search of the giant Surtur, leaving the Dwarven realm to Sindri, who comes back to help despite his grief. We go back to Mordor, increasing our count ever closer to 1100, which impresses Surtur so much he agrees to help us, leading us to the Spark of the World, where we use the Blades of Chaos to give Surtur a chin that even Jay Leno would be in awe of. He falls into the void while we're tackled by a couple Valkyries in what I consider the hardest boss fight in the main game. I died 3 times to Hrist and missed, and all 3 times I was so close to winning, but the 4th time I overcame and killed him off in an epic father-son finishing move. That fight gave Surtur enough time to bake and turn into Ragnarok, who agrees to help in our fight against Asgard. On our way out, plenty of Odin's forces wait for us, granting me 2 more deaths while also putting that kill total over 1100. We go back to Midgard and camp out now that our preparations are complete. All we need now is sleep, and after telling Atreus a bedtime story, Kratos passes out and into another dream with Faye, where we finally get to spend some quality time with her without it ending suddenly.
To grieve deeply is to have loved fully.
In the morning, we hype the gang up with a speech, then blow Gjallarhorn, opening all 9 realms. We rush into Asgard, seeing the armies we mustered joining the battle, while those machines Odin forced the dwarves to make begin destroying the entryways to the realms. We split up with the goal of sabotaging those machines. Freya comes with me and helps wreck the Asgardian army. Eventually, Freya goes with her Valkyries, and Atreus joins up with me, adding a few more kills until Sindri shows up by himself. He doesn't have an army, but he has an item that breaks the machines so they can't destroy the towers or harm the freshly arrived Ragnarok. Atreus is feeling regret and tries closing his heart to the pain and suffering, but Kratos tells him to open up to it because that's who he is. Kratos has Atreus go with Sindri to a flaw in the wall to use his device to break it open. Sindri is pissed and steals a lot of kills here, but I'm able to add 3 of them before turning into a bear and savaging 13 more. Once the carnage is over, Thrud greets us with anger since we brought this madness to her doorstep, but Sif backs me up and suggests she help me. Sindri does his thing and has us shoot it, knocking a hole in the wall just in time for Kratos to arrive. He's impressed by Thrud's fighting abilities as I continue to boost my kill total. Kratos sends everybody away when Thor defeats Jormungandr, knowing our next showdown will be with the God of Thunder. This begins another epic fight with Thor that adds 1 death to my count. After a long duel, we take Thor down but show him some mercy and compassion since Kratos has been in those shoes before.
For the sake of our children, we must be better.
Odin arrives, berating Thor, who refuses to fight for him any longer. Of no use to him, the Allfather stabs him with his spear and tries to blame us for his death, despite Thrud seeing it all happen. Now commences the final boss fight of the game, and after a fairly easy first phase, he traps Kratos and Atreus with a binding spell. But thankfully, Freya shows up just in time, using a binding spell of her own with his rope.
Bow to your queen!
He refuses and breaks to the ground, sending us into his creepy basement near the rift. Atreus gives Odin the biggest middle finger of all time by breaking the mask and closing the rift forever, which pisses Odin off and begins the next phase of the fight, where he takes all 3 of us on at once. He's able to kill me twice here, putting my final death total well over the previous game at 19. Finally, he's defeated in yet another awesome finishing sequence the 3 of us take part in. Atreus traps Odin's soul in his marble, not really killing him, but then suddenly Sindri snatches it away and does it himself. Honestly, yeah, you deserve that kill, man. Our victory is short-lived as Ragnarok is rampaging without regard to anyone. Freyr keeps him at bay, sacrificing himself while we narrowly escape into the rift Angrboda opened for us. Atreus wakes up in Midgard, briefly talking to and thanking everyone that helped along the way, until finally his father arrives and we follow Angrboda to one of Faye's shrines. We forged our own path because of her, instead of accepting our fate. Atreus tells his father he needs to go on a quest to find the other giants hiding out there. This makes his dad really proud. He flirts with Angrboda a little bit and sets off. Kratos asks Freya and Mimir if they'll join him in rebuilding now that the war is over. They gladly accept and we trek down the mountain while the credits roll. That's not the real ending, however. We go to Svartalfheim to attend Brock's funeral and yet another heart-rending scene with Sindri. The main story ends here as we're off to tally the final numbers. I finished God of War Ragnarok with 1,171 kills, easily topping the previous champion Resident Evil 4. Ragnarok was definitely more difficult than its predecessor, ending up with 19 total deaths, giving me a kill-death ratio of 61.63. I beat the game in 23 hours and 6 minutes, which gives me a kill on average every 1.18 minutes, and a death just under every 73 minutes. Like the last game, I left a lot more kills on the table, as there's plenty more side quests to complete and optional bosses to fight. After playing Ragnarok, I had Elden Ring neck and neck with it for Game of the Year, but after going through the footage and making this video, I'm going to have to give the nod to Ragnarok. The game was just masterfully crafted in every single area and told an incredible story I was emotionally invested in, and I'm excited to see where Kratos goes next. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you like this video. I'm happy to be returning to some shorter games to finish out the year with, the Callisto Protocol coming up next. Until next time, I'm King Deschain, signing off for now.